Hello, everyone, and welcome to OGV Live, here live from Aberdeen. Wherever you are in the world, welcome. My name is Eric Doyle, and this is our Digital Transformation Edition. We are broadcasting to you today across LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, or X, whatever you prefer to call it, and even more channels, giving you the very best news and insight from the energy sector by bringing to life the UK's leading energy industry publication, of course, OGV Energy. Thanks to our regular viewers, it's good to have you with us. You'll know how the show works. If you're new to the show each month, we feature news, interviews and discussions with our partners from across the publication on a wide range of topics across the energy sector. Our aim is to try and update you on all the latest news and opinions on a specific topic. Today, digital transformation. So say hello, tell us where you are in the world, where you work, what you do. Are you in the digital transformation space? That's what the show is all about. And we'll dive in just now and see if we'll get anyone that's joined us. Hello to Ian Gove from Acker. Great to have you. Do exactly what Ian's done. Say hi. It's all about interacting. This is an interactive show. It's all about us. It's about the energy community coming together from all around the world, and that's what usually happens. We get guests coming from all different sectors, all different industries, all around the globe. So today we're going to explore and unpack the very latest in digital transformation, a show that's a subject that's very close to my heart, as everything we do at the OGV studio is connected to digital commercial strategy and activity for businesses just like yours. And we're going to be meeting some really special people at the leading edge of digital in our industries today. In the spotlight, we have some fantastic guests in our In the Spotlight section coming up. That's companies that are very active in the digital space. Andy Sutherland, Managing Director of Prism Energy, is here. Damien Bates, Managing Partner at Digitising Reality, is here. We have Keegan Bellinack, Sales Manager UK and Africa from Seagal. We have Chris Pless, Digital Technology Solutions Manager from Can Group. And then we're going to be checking in with the brilliant Shiranya Kumaramurthy from EIC for an update in all that's going on in our markets. A quick hi to some of our guests that have joined us. James at Leighton, James Brown, great to see you. Andrew Slesser, good afternoon from a sunny Lawrence Kirk. It wasn't sunny yesterday. Hi Becky, hi Nurhan, and hi Mark. Let us know where you are, let us know what you do for a living, who you work for, and how's your day going? It's as simple as that. And don't forget, we give you guys a chance to win a really, really special prize. The best question or comment to our guest today wins a free half-page article or advert in a future edition of OGV Energy magazine. We've got some great people with us today, so let's get our money's worth out of them. Keep the questions and the comments coming. Hi, Susan. Hi, David. Thanks for joining us today. Now, to the topic at hand. One of the most profound revolutions in the history of business, the digital transformation. In our conversations today, we're going to embark on a journey through time and innovation, where we're going to unravel the captivating stories of how digitization has not just infiltrated, but enveloped virtually every facet of business as we know it today. From the advent of the internet to the present day, we're going to unravel how this relentless wave of technological evolution has reshaped the way we work, revolutionized our very notion of commerce, and fundamentally altered the landscape of modern business. Let's remember and celebrate how far we've come as you're listening to our guest today. Just have a little think back 10, 15, 20 years ago, just to remember how far we've come. To examine all of this in more detail and put this into the perspective of the modern energy sector, we've got a group of headline guests today who are trailblazing across this digital arc, as we know it today, in the energy sector. To start with, please welcome David Newton from Repsol. David, hi, how are you?
I'm good, Eric. Delighted to be here.
Brilliant. We have also joining you, Davis Larson, CEO at ProServe. How are you, Davis?
Afternoon, Eric. I'm fine, thanks. And you?
Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. All the better for seeing you, that you're here safely and you're in, and we have no glitches. It's all fantastic. And we also have joining us Steve Aitken, founder at Intelligent Plant. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good, thanks, Eric. I bet you're glad I didn't hang up after I saw that video.
Yes, very much so. Very much. And relax. Absolutely. My goodness me. I guess just starting with this, right? I mean, just let's look at where we are today. I talked earlier about asking our guests to just think about where we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago and how far we've come. The very fact that we are here and that mere mortals like us are able to sign up to a platform, get a little webcam and basically make a digital television show is just testament to how much digital is moving at pace and enabling us normal people to just do amazing things, right? It's quite a shift. Agreed?
Yeah.
You told us this was just a chat between four friends, that we weren't going live.
Yeah, ignore all those people on the right hand side, Davis. Ignore them all. Absolutely. So yeah, I love that. The fact that, you know, we kind of move with these things, or some people don't, and that's fine if it's a choice. But we get, you know, life changes, mobile devices, AI. We're going to talk about all of this, virtual reality. We tend to take these things and absorb without taking a moment just to realize how far we've come. I guess, David, you've got a brilliant title, David, Business Improvement and Digital Manager at Repsol Sinopec Resources UK, right?
Yeah.
There was a time in life when oil companies, oil and gas companies, energy companies didn't have people with those job titles. Digital manager, right? This is a step change, is it not?
Absolutely. I mean, this is where we are as a kind of industry and a sector right now, where I think the focus on digital and data is as highest it's ever been. I mean, in our kind of experience, you're right. You go back 5, 10 years, and I've been with this company now for 10 years, and what a difference in how we operate and the ways we actually work. And I think, to be honest with you, I actually do think that the opportunities, the bigger opportunities, are still to come. I mean, some of the areas that I think that the challenges we've had in the recent past are setting us up for even more success within the digital space.
My goodness, my goodness. So we're going to push that little button. More to come, and we're just at the start of this. From the operator's perspective, you know, what are the issues? How do you what does digital manager mean?
Well, I guess one thing is that, you know, even though the operators will be, you can group them together, that we're all going to be very, very different, and everyone would say the exact same thing. We all have our unique challenges with our type of assets, our type of workforce, what our goals are, and where we're trying to go as different companies. I guess in terms of digital manager, what we've been trying to do is put a more of a focus on digital. So our main challenge, I guess, as part of a digital transformation, I think what you try and look for is you look for buy-in, you look for momentum, and then ideally you want sustainability. For us, not wanting to put a spanner in the works of your title, but transformation is a word that I try and avoid.
Right.
And I'm wanting to go for embeddedness, because transformation for me feels like it never ends almost. We're always transforming. And when we try and go to embeddedness, it means it's part of the fabric.
Note
So,
to self, change the title of next year's Digital Transformation magazine.
but no, it is a catchy title. People are starting to understand what it means. And for us, the challenge was, you know, when I look back when I first came in, you know, we did have a good appetite for digital solutions a few years ago, but the challenge as an operator, I found, was always that we were very uncoordinated in how we would actually execute digital solutions.
Right.
So that means you got a varied level of success. I guess in our case, we probably were lacking, you know, a bit of vision of what we were trying to achieve, because the space has moved so quickly.
Right.
And when you don't have that vision, you don't generally then have a plan of how you're going to execute it. So efforts aren't as efficient as what they can be, and are generally wasted. And that's where we kind of were. We were unable to prioritize digitalization projects. We were really in a space where, you know, our digital element, our digital team were looking at maintaining digital solutions, and there was a competing nature between trying to fix and maintain digital solutions to show they're making a difference, rather than focusing on value. And that's where we
Right.
kind of came up with the idea of, you know, could we link it to business improvement?
So you've linked it to business improvement. What other avenues are you exploring to deal with these challenges and create these opportunities within a huge operator these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenges that we've had in terms of, yeah, linking it to business improvement was great. It gave us the almost overnight, it gave us a change in focus and elevated us to a higher status overnight. And I think what we wanted to do then is, well, we realized at that point that the expectations go up overnight as well. And coming back to where I was going to started off around embeddedness, for us, what I would like to be able to get to as a digital organization is where you are part of the fabric, you are part of the business, you are like an HR, a finance, you are, as I said, embedded within the organization. And that, and, you know, how do we get there? There's various we could spend a long time on this, but for me, you know, the key areas are delivery models, and strategies. And that's the thing, is that you're kind of now looking at these things and going, we need delivery models and strategies for data and digital. And you're like, yes, that's correct. It's it's like another department. If you would have a supply chain strategy, a business strategy, an HR strategy, you need to start saying, this is how we are going to deal with the digital challenges that we have and where we want to get to.
Now, we learnt a new word today. You heard it here first, folks, digital embeddedness. So to achieve this level of digital embeddedness that you're talking about and where you're trying to get to, I'm guessing, I'm going to take a punt here, that you can't do it alone, right? You're going to need some support. And we're talking about the supply chain here. What are the challenges and opportunities you're seeing within the supply chain today?
I mean, I think for us, when I first came in, our main customers were the business. We are an in-house digital team, and we look at the people within our business, and we're trying to create value for them. We're trying to help them in how they can use their data. And we've set up ways and means, talking about model strategies and processes, how we're going to do that. But one of the things that's really kind of struck me as a bit of an opportunity recently, engaging with the supply chain service companies in Aberdeen, is I find there's a thirst from the supply chain as well, that if we can fix our data problems and our digital solutions, that it'll end up benefiting both parties.
Right.
So for us, I think you see providers that provide technical services, for example, I think they would be much more appreciative if we had our data and our digital solutions aligned, so they can help us provide that technical expertise. I think it's a bit of a corny analogy, but the example that we used the other day was, if you go to a mechanic and ask them to fix, there's something wrong with your car, and they say, yeah, I'll fix it, and you go, yeah, well, could you find it first, please, and then fix it? That'd be great. That's the type of issue we are. We're asking people in the technical space to come and fix problems that we've got, but can you also find our data for us, please? And then that's causing the tensions, I believe, between between operators potentially and service companies. And for me, I think one of the big opportunities that we could see is being able to identify companies that we could partner with where they have digital offerings. We're starting to see that more and more now. We're starting to see partners come to the table with, we can automate reports, we can log into your systems, we can look into your laser scans and give you a much higher quality of service. So if we can work out models where they can work better and collaborate, then that's going to be good for both parties. And it's very tough to do, because that's not maybe as tangible as we build a digital solution. We buy a piece of software, we get a piece of technology. It probably requires a bit of relationship building, and then obviously trying to understand, well, can the two parties collaborate together, and how do they do that?
On that note, as if by magic, you've mentioned supply chain collaboration. Steve is grinning down in the corner, and Davis there. Davis, if it's okay, thanks for that, David. Davis, I'll start with you if that's okay, but actually it's a question to both of you. Your article in this month's magazine is titled On the Same Page, and it's a beautiful piece, and it talks about a proper, we've been screaming for collaboration for years, right? Collaboration's been the buzzword. Since I came into the industry in 1990, we've been talking about the need for the supply chain to collaborate. Your story is one of proper collaboration, right? So on the same page, yourself, ProServe and Intelligent Plant have come together in a partnership. Can you just unpack what it's all about, what it means for us, and what does on the same page mean digitally?
Happy for me to go first, Steve?
Wow, okay, yeah, sure.
So,
I guess that would be a demonstration.
yeah, exactly. So let me kick it off.
There you go.
And I guess if I just come back to David's corny analogy, probably about 4 years ago, we were increasingly getting phone calls from the operators, like David at Repsol, saying, we've got a problem. And we provide controls technology to the energy industry. So quite often they would call us, they would give us access to their firewall and say, can you access the data through the control system to tell us what's gone wrong, why this alarm was triggered? So we would do that, we'd get access and we'd say, here's your problem. Somebody opened this valve 2 weeks ago and you've got a wax and asphaltene buildup that's caused you the problem. And we were repeatedly getting these calls, going through this cycle. And eventually we're like, this is crazy. Why don't you give us access to your data? We'll make sure you're looking at the right data. And with our domain knowledge, we'll actually tell you before the alarm triggers that you've got a problem building. So we started suggesting to our clients to do exactly what David was referring to. What we realized as a company that sold control systems for 50 to 60 years, to suddenly pivot to being able to get access to and interpret huge amounts of data is not easy.
Yeah.
And so we rapidly found Stephen Intelligent Plant, and so started a bit of a journey, because we realized if we try and do this ourselves, it's going to take far too long. So who's already doing complementary parts of this solution in the business? And that's how we came across Intelligent Plant. So Steve and I met, I think it was about 3 years ago at the start of COVID. And I think one of the first things we felt, obviously Steve as the founder, me as the CEO, let's make sure that we're aligned from a kind of values, culture perspective. Because at the end of the day, every relationship hits a bump in the road at some point. It's about knowing that you've got the maturity and the strength of the relationship to get over that bump. So we had a socially distanced getting to know each other session in my log cabin with a couple of beers during COVID to make sure that we were philosophically aligned in terms of what we were trying to do. And it also meant that for our teams, when they saw that Steve and I were aligned in terms of strategy and direction, it was really easy for them to kind of replicate the same behaviors and work together. And that probably started the journey about 3 years ago, and it's evolved and grown since then. So I think the easiest way I would try and summarize it now is Steve and I have this philosophy of when we're together as the broader organization, we're trying to encourage everybody to forget whether you're paid by ProServe or Intelligent Plant. Let's solve the solution as one company, and then you worry about the rest of it later. And in general, it works quite well in that respect. So that's very much how the journey started. Steve, I don't know whether you want to add anything to that.
I want to go through some of the other sides of that. Completely with you on all of it. It's really hard to do a collaboration properly, and something we often echo back to is trust. And building trust is something we don't spend a lot of time on in business, generally. And I believe there's a lot of missed opportunity because of this. Because Davis and I, going down to the log cabin and me coming home at about 3 a.m. and getting into trouble from Lisa was quite an interesting kind of start, and broke down a lot of barriers.
Yeah.
We were able to unpick each other and see what drove each other, and understand that, hey, there's something more here. This isn't just about us earning money. This is, we're trying to make a difference. And when you level on that, you can really start to go, right, how are we going to make a difference? What are we going to do? How are we going to make use of this much bigger organization of ProServe and this little organization of Intelligent Plant are doing two quite different things, but could be very impactful if we pull the two together and get them on the same path. I've seen it not work so many times, and so I'm immensely chuffed that we're at a place where we are able to do that sort of work together, and to take the badge off and go, right, but what is it we're trying to do here? And how are we going to work together to do that? And can we figure out how that works once we've figured that out? So yeah.
I think that should be the new partnership motto: immensely chuffed. Immensely chuffed. It should be printed on t-shirts. Could you just break it down for our lovely audience who are sitting there listening to this brilliant collaboration and how it's helping your clients and all of that in very basic terms, using the old classic 30-second elevator speech? How does the Intelligent Plant bit help ProServe? How does the ProServe bit help Intelligent Plant? And how are you helping your clients? What is it?
Sure. So when it comes to data access, God, I'm going to have to shorten this.
You are.
Yeah.
29 seconds gone.
There are a number of challenges. You need to know what you're looking for. You need to be able to look for it. And you need to meet all of the requirements of the organization in terms of cybersecurity and all of the rest. Now, each company has strengths, but none of them has all of these. And that's really where us and an operator pull all three together, and suddenly we can get stuff done that couldn't be done otherwise.
Right. Very good. I love that. That is excellent. And you just about made the 30-second elevator speech qualification criteria. Right. We've heard from each of you. We've had the opening round. We've got some questions coming in from our audience. Andrew Slesser has asked a lovely question. It's more of a comment. When the general public hear digital transformation, they will think it's about getting a laptop, setting up a website, and off you go. What are the biggest myths that are part of the digital transformation or embeddedness? See what you've done, David?
Oh, yeah.
So you've created a movement.
I think one of the biggest myths I kind of have found is that sorry, I'm taking that one
Oh, yeah,
straight away.
it's
Sorry,
yours.
Eric. Yeah, I'm just jumping straight in. Is that it's going to give you immediate returns? That's the one of the things that I found without it's almost going to give you immediate um, returns with very little effort, because it feels like, I think looking at the question there, it does feel a bit more like you get something very, very small that you know how to work and you're going to get massive value out of it. And for me, that's one of the things I've seen, um, you know, in part of my role, that people seem to get attracted to. Or when I came in 2 years ago, we hadn't really reached the Gen AI stage, but we'd reached the machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, maybe not generative artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence general. And there was a right, let's go out there and trial some things, proof of concepts, and you would work with vendors, and you would understand, well, they're working with someone else in the industry, so we must do it as well. And there wasn't really a focus on, I think we were moving now with digital transformation, is a real focus on data.
Right.
There wasn't a real understanding of what data means in these scenarios and these technologies even. And people were just saying, well, I've heard of this, it sounds cool, it can predict our maintenance better, or it can tell us when our emissions are high and low and give us recommendations. And you're like, yeah, but if we don't really know where our data is stored, how are we going to actually make this a sustainable digital solution? And for me, I think one of the myths is that we almost go through with technologies, we go through like a change cycle,
Yes.
where you get really excited. Well, here's all the things that are possible, and then you very quickly go down to a disillusion stage, and then you come back up to more of a productivity stage. And I think we are now, or us as a business, I don't know as an industry or sector where everyone else is on that journey, but we are probably, hopefully, over the trough of disillusionment, because we've now put that focus on data and said, and been able to communicate to our organization that there's a much higher chance of these things being successful if we understand where our data is, and we give the vendors half a chance, rather than engaging with vendors, having an unsuccessful pilot, and then really just saying, well, we didn't really know what we were trying to achieve there
Yeah,
anyway.
but it felt cool.
Maybe that vendor wasn't good enough, and push the blame out. So yeah, it's a long, but for me, one of the misses is that you're going to get immediate benefits from a new technology, when a lot of the time it's going to need a business proven understanding of why are we doing this, what process is going to improve, and also it's going to take time.
Very good.
It's going to
Yeah,
take a lot of time.
absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. I hope that answers your question. Darren Lindsay's asked a question that I might push over to you, Davis and Steve. Darren Lindsay's question, we hear that, in fact, I'm going to have to put it back over there so I can read we hear that circa 70% of companies feel that knowledge loss is a big problem. For example, retiring workforces and field workers waiting hours per week on information and searching for information in different apps and systems. And I'm going to have to switch it off to read it all. What processes have been put in place today to capture this knowledge, get it out of people's minds, allowing the capture and delivery of knowledge is easier, quicker to access digitally?
Wow.
There's a few questions in there, I think.
There really are, yeah.
Can I start with that?
Yeah, of course you can.
I've got a respect for engineers, and the idea of taking the knowledge out of an engineer and then no longer requiring the engineer is something that I think is maybe a misnomer. If I would support us having a sort of a sustainable way of bringing people on that are the apprentices to the expert that's going to retire. The things you learn in this industry are relevant to many other industries, be it the chemical industry or manufacturing or even in renewable energy. So these things are relevant even though we're in another transformation as you go forward. And I was brought on initially. My first job coming out of uni was to work with an engineering consultancy on the basis that what I would do is take what's in their heads and put it in software, and they'd use that to get around the world. That wasn't to replace engineers. It was actually a way of getting to the value faster so that you could find the problem the engineer needed to look at. Because otherwise, they were spending all their time looking for the problem and less of the time solving it, just like the data.
Right. Okay, Darren. I hope that that answered your question. Let's break this down. There are many people watching this show and will watch the show and the various recordings across platforms that might be au fait with digital transformation. Maybe a significant part of their working lives is in digital and doing all of that. There may be some who are listening to all of this thinking, I just don't get it. I wondered if we could take it all back to basics. What is digital transformation? And David, maybe we could start with you. David, for an oil and gas company, what does moving from where we were to digital embeddedness, what does it actually mean in very basic terms? What are we doing?
So, if I was to speak to, if you were to speak to management or shareholders in an organization, they would always say focus on the value. But for me, it's about making people's life
Right.
easier. That's what technology and digital is all about. The goal of digitalization is often, I think, lost within better commas value. If you can make people's life easier, then, or if you're not making people's lives easier, then what is the purpose? And for us, what we found is with our workforce, I guess, and probably every workforce company will find this is that, everyone's different. So we've seen as an organization that if we are able to, some of the journey we've been on, but now we're able to recommend solutions to people or provide solutions to people as our customer base, as our internal operator structure. We're now seeing some people absolutely flying in that space. We're seeing people who we pretty much call our digital innovators, people that are, they see problems, they see solutions, they want to innovate, they're empowered to innovate, and they support technology and digital as a lever to do that. But you also have people that maybe are on a different part of this matrix where they have the same innovation thirst to innovate, but they maybe don't have the power or the problems because they might be in a different department. So as part of my kind of role is to try and identify those people and understand how can we use them in the organization. And then the other side of the coin would be those people, as you said, that maybe don't really get it, don't really understand what it means, and are maybe perhaps even a bit threatened by it. And I think there's been a lot of kind of messaging recently around AI and what that's going to do for people's jobs. And it will be disruptive, but it could be disruptive in a good way. And I think organizational structures and companies are going to have to catch up with these technologies. But what I like to always tie it back to with people is that what we're trying to do is improve how you do your job and how you make decisions with, I think, kind of what Steve was saying there, with the best possible information to give you the best possible chance of success. And what we try and say is that your job will change. That's great, but it's trying to unlock a bit of potential in the individual as well, and say, look, if we can make your job better, you can show us your potential. That's what efficiency is all about. If we can make your job more efficient, then you can show us what benefits you can give to our organization.
Very good, very good. So we've heard from the operator, Davis, running a large company such as ProServe. What are you seeing that, or if you could break it down, maybe you've got a particularly different take on what is becoming a digital organization mean for you and do for you?
Yeah, and I'm going to pick up on one of the last comments that David just made there about making decisions.
Yeah.
So for us in ProServe with our clients, it's around demystifying the topic. We tend not to talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and these are all just different ways to get there. And I'm a finance guy by background, so I am very analytical. I like data to help me make decisions. So whether it's internal, whether it's an engineer, whether it's the marketing team trying to figure out what's the best way to get our message out, our branding, whether it's with a customer to understand how do I improve the reliability, the performance, and the uptime of this piece of kit, it's helping the customer or the user get access to the right information in a timely way to help them make a decision. And that's ultimately how we try and think of it within ProServe. So it's very much about demystifying it. And does this journey we're on help you make your decisions on a more informed, quicker basis so it's more proactive? And that's very much how we try and think about it.
Very good, very good.
I think just maybe picking up on that just very quickly is that's exactly how we try and think about it as well. That if what we're trying to do with data and digital is provide information, as we've said, and to make decisions. And decision making, we try to break down into it's based on information and judgment. So if you look at information, it's the quality of information,
Exactly.
and that can go from, you can tell someone something's broken, and then you can tell them something broke yesterday, something broke yesterday because of. Something broke yesterday because of this, and it's likely to happen again then. And you can keep adding quality to that to a point that you eventually could maybe get a predictive quality to that, which if you're able to then provide much better information, then you look at the judgment side of the coin and you go, is the individual empowered to make that decision? And are they capable? Do they have? And that comes down to a mix of things like experience. And there's theories on this around permissionless corporations, and eventually once you push that data down, and if you can follow it with the org structures and the decision making, then you should, in theory, have a much faster and agile organization. In theory.
In theory, Mr. Aitken, probably the most digital among us. You've even got circuit boards coming out of your head today. What would you answer to that if you were breaking down what, I'm in the digital space, I'm in the data space, I'm in digital transformation. What does it actually do? What does it mean on a day-to-day basis?
I'm going to take a different angle on the same thing. So
is this what he did in the log cabin, Davis?
Yes.
Right. I understand it now. I get it.
So I look at two words that are similar but different: transformation and transition. And for me, a transformation is a complete change, or a change to what you're doing. Where a transition is like a gradual change. IT for me is like a gradual change. You get a better PC. It's doing the same thing. But when you look at digital transformation, for me, it's about changing the way you do business, and perhaps even what the business is you do. By that I mean, for a real sort of transformation in an operator is where you tie together digitally both your costs and your income, and do that in such an efficient way that you are passing things through really, really quickly. And that completely changes the way that you work as a business. And for me, that's transformation. It's a massive journey. It takes a long time, but that's the where we're going. And then what we need to think about is what are the steps that we can take that make a practical progress towards that we can actually do. Because of course we can't get there in a 1 hour. It would cost too much, and we wouldn't get any value before we'd started. So we need little bits that we can go, here's something, we'll get some value out of it, and we've made progress. Right, next bit, let's go and carry on.
Very good. Very good. Mark Susich has given us one of the biggest comments we've ever had, and he's included a YouTube clip and asked us to check out at the 12-minute mark about CapEx efficiency, oil and gas sector, investing in automation software and digitization. We will check that out, Mark. Thank you. Mark Kuspit has put a much shorter comment in. What has changed over the last 5 years in technology? More awareness and utilization of digital platforms, social media, cyber risks, and the importance of good internet connectivity. Also, the move to the utilization of AI. But first, we need to understand, and I'll just put that back, we need to understand the governance. We need to foster the trust and collaboration amongst businesses. Agreed?
Yep.
Absolutely. My goodness.
And,
carry on.
I remember before COVID, do you remember no one knew how to use a 2D barcode?
Correct.
And suddenly it's a thing. Before it was a techie thing that no one would ever possibly get on their camera and their phone, but now everyone knows how to do it.
Yeah, big time. Question in from James Donegan. I think this is for you, David. Let's just have a look. Do operators' existing IT structures really allow full digital collaboration and therefore transformation? If not, what's the solution?
Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of what the change we made. Our digital department sat under IT, and there was that conflicting element that we talked about, where there was a natural prioritization of fixing things versus creating value. There was a natural lean towards cybersecurity over efficiency, and separating those two out for us has, it's been tough because in our case we're almost setting up a brand new department with no processes, no interactions, no links to other departments in the organization formally, and you're trying to make change. So for us, it has been a tough journey because the existing IT structures didn't really have the separation between IT and digital. It might in name, but I don't think it really had the change in behaviors, and that's where we've tried to get to. We wanted to look at how we are as a department, and be able to change that and say, what do we want to be? How do we want to be of use to the business, and how do we want them to view us? So yeah, it's a really good question actually, that, because for us we're always competing against. We can be working in a silo, working on a data solution, and IT can be looking at swapping out that piece of software, and they can then get in conflicts there straight away. It's saying we're halfway towards creating value by accessing or extracting or visualizing the data, and you're going to change. And that's what both departments are out there to do. So we have to work very, very closely and have those lines of communication to make sure that we're not expending effort that's not going to be worthwhile.
Davis, you were smiling up in the corner there, as if from experience, perhaps.
Yeah, so I'd probably answer the question a little bit differently, and I think, for full collaboration between, operators, supply chain, and so on, one of the hurdles that we find often come across is the perceived sensitivity of, but this means you can see my data. And especially in the energy industry, a lot of operators are worried around, well, if you can see my data, you know how good or not so good my wells are producing, and you disclose that can affect the share price. So there's an underlying issue of how do we get a level of trust and transparency in there between the organizations that both feel comfortable, and whether that's through putting the appropriate legal protections in place, the cybersecurity in place. But until you can really get both organizations comfortable to do that, you never fully get to that trust and collaboration space. And that was one of the main reasons why we hooked it with Intelligent Plant, to make it easier for our clients, the operators, to be able to get to that place where they were comfortable to give access to the data in a controlled, safe environment.
Very good. Cracking point you make there, and question you asked, James. Davis, you just mentioned trust and collaboration, and we've mentioned empowering people a few times throughout this. One of the things that brings all of you people together and really focuses on that is something known as the Inform Prize, right? Something that's quite exciting. Now, given the fact that you're up to your neck in this, Mr. Aitken, and you have been since the start, maybe even your idea, could you let us know what the Inform Prize is all about and how long it's been around and what it's for?
Sure. So the Inform Prize has changed in terms of what it's about. It used to be about us getting the best students out of the university. And we would get them to present to us and we'd pick the best presentation. But one time we were doing that, the university came along and saw what was being presented, some people from the Development Trust, and they were like, my God, that stuff's amazing. We were like, I know, this is amazing. And I went away from that.
They're all coming to work for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Both elated at what I'd seen and burdened with the responsibility of not having shown everyone else. So from that, we decided to make the Inform Prize, which was a prize given to students, an event. And actually, OGV helped us a lot with this in the early days. You did a bunch of media and things that was incredible. But so we made an event of it, invited some people, and when you create an event, a new one, the first thing you worry about is nobody's going to come. Yeah. But tons of people came. They were all super enthusiastic. COVID hit in the middle. We did it online a couple of times. That changed us to doing it by video. But now we've got the purpose of showing the work that these students are doing so that the local supply chain can see that and capture that talent before it leaves. Because quite often what happens is these students go through Aberdeen and RGU, so it's both of them now. They come to graduation, they look in the paper for a job, and then they go wherever that is. Now, that could be London or it could be the US, but they've got no idea what's actually around them at the time. So for a placement or for actually getting a job afterwards, it's a really big challenge. Now, I was sitting on both sides of this because I was in a forum of employers, and I was listening to employers saying, we can't get students. We can't get any of them. There don't seem to be any. We advertise and they don't see it and nothing happens. So this is like the perfect cacophony to bring the two together and say, do you know what? There's all these local businesses that are really interested in really good digital stuff. And there's all these students that are really, really good. Let's bring the two together and make an event out of it. So next Wednesday, it's at the Sandman Hotel, and I'm really looking forward to it. I might cry, but
you'll have Davis and David there to support you, because Repsol Platinum sponsors and ProServe and Intelligent Plant are coming together for this event to celebrate the 10th anniversary of it. Right, Davis? What does this mean to you? Yeah,
I'm still laughing at Steve's comment that as the students graduate, they look in the paper for a job. It's somewhat ironic that you use those words given the title of this whole show.
Yeah, but, looking at the paper like this.
Exactly. Yeah. So part of the journey we're on with the Informed Prize is linked to what Steve said. We saw it to strengthen the collaboration with Intelligent Plant, but we also saw it as a great way to get first-hand insight into some of the smartest graduates coming out of the universities. And we hired one last year, and at this year's event, we'll have a stand there. We'll be talking to people, and we recognise it's a burgeoning new skill set that companies like ours, and as David said for Repsol, we need to bring in alongside the traditional functional domains like finance, marketing, engineering, and so on. So what better way to recruit them through a show like this, where you see them in an exposed environment where it's a bit uncomfortable for them, but you really see how people perform in that environment, and then that gives us the opportunity to see which ones can better fit our organization as we try and evolve our organization to be ready for the next 50 years. So that's the attraction for us, and sponsoring it is a great honor.
Yeah, fantastic. David, you see this, you mentioned, empowering people and those people who might have that kind of skills gaps, maybe a bit too harsh a term, but events like this really, really helping to close that skills gap and really push this issue forward?
I don't think it's too harsh a term, Eric. I think when we were looking at changing our model and making the changes we did, one of the first things that we were doing in parallel was trying to engage with the market and skills out there, and it appeared to us at the time that there wasn't any skills locally.
Crikey.
Now that I've kind of spent the last year making more time, as Steve was saying, you've got to make time for collaboration, trying to meet vendors. This is how this came about, is speaking to vendors and realizing, something like this exists, and there's talent here in Aberdeen. So for us, that would be great, because we look further afield, because that's where we thought the talent was, and we didn't realize it was there. But we also need to look at ourselves and say, well, are we marketing ourselves from that point of view? I think Davis and Steve have both said that in the traditional careers, and we do have good relationships as an organisation, and over the last 10, 20 years with both universities, we've taken graduates, placement students in finance, engineering, HR, but we've never really had a look and said there's career paths. We said there's career paths in those sectors for you, in those departments for you, in those organisations. But when it comes to digital, computer science, data, we've not really done that. And one of the things that maybe changed it for us was we took on our first digital placement student this year, and we're looking at taking on, we want to make sure that we can start taking on people with these skill sets to run our business. We ended up taking 7 across the organisation, only 1 in digital. Right. But out of the 7, 6 out of the 7 students, they do a showcase at the end of it to our organisation. They had actually worked on digital solutions for the departments that they were hired within, and that to us showed, great, look, the demand's there. We could show that to the leaders again. Look, the demand is there for us to look at these digital solutions. And when you've seen what these students were able to do, a lot of them weren't from computer science backgrounds. I think maybe all of them weren't actually. And I would quiz each one of them. How did you find using these softwares, the Power Platform? How did you find that? And what you would hear is, we've never really used it before, and it took me a long time. Yeah, it took me about 2 weeks to get to grips with it. And you're like, that's unbelievable, And they were all able to show real tangible progress in a giving a quick solution, which would normally be around reorganizing data, reporting, visualizing, which has helped the departments that they were hired in. So, the thirst from the organizations and the industry is there, the capabilities are there, but for some reason, we're not matching up. And something like the Inform Prize for us is a great opportunity to see that. And I've seen some of the quality of the submissions this year, and again, it's really impressive to see what students can do in such a short time.
If you want to see that, you can register for the Inform Prize for free here. Just so happens to have an Intelligent Plant sort of flavour to it there. I like that. Intelligent Plant twice on the link. Dan Hyland's put that in there. And I'm guessing you're asking for people that are interested in this, and clearly there are, because we've got a lovely audience today. You want people to come along?
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've heard it here first. There are fantastic students with amazing ideas, and it looks like Steve Aitken's not going to get his pick this time. There's going to be competition.
Quite right, and I'm looking for it.
You're looking for it, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, listen, we have enjoyed this immensely, and what you chaps are doing in the digital space is brilliant. We wish you all the best in all that you're doing. and for the Inform Prize that's coming up. Why don't we make a date for next year, around about the same time, to come back on our digital embeddedness special? and catch up with you and see what's happened in 12 months, because things move fast, right?
That sounds like fun.
Sounds good. Look
More
forward
than
to it.
happy to.
Absolutely. David Newton, Repsol Sinopec, Davis Larson ProServe, Steve Aitken Intelligent Plant, they're the names, they're the companies. Please reach out and extend that conversation. I'm sure each of these gentlemen will be happy to connect with you and extend the conversation. But for now, David, Davis and Steve, thank you so much, and we'll catch you again.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye-bye. Wasn't that great? There we are. Perfect. We are moving on to the industry spotlight section of our show, where we showcase organizations who are deeply embedded in this digital world right now and are actually doing some pretty amazing stuff. We're going to start with Andy Sutherland from Prism Energy. Hello, Andrew. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Eric. How are you doing? Thank you for using my Sunday name.
Sunday names, absolutely, quite right too. Who are we going to next? We have Keegan Belinak from Seagal. How are you doing, Keegan?
Good and yourself, Eric?
Very well indeed. Thank you for joining us today, Keegan. We have, where is he? Let me just find him on this list here. We've got so many people waiting on this. Fantastic. We have Chris Pless from Cannes. How are you doing, Chris?
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
Brilliant, thank you. And we have, some would say in Aberdeen terms, a well-kent face and a very well-kent voice. Damien Bates is here. Hello, Damien. How are you doing?
Well, I'm still here, Eric. Yeah, thanks.
Sorry for keeping you chaps waiting, but we got a bit sort of sidetracked on some of those interesting topics. Really interesting stuff around hearing from the operator's perspective and the Inform Prize and all that. Any comments on that? Anyone want to pick up on what we heard from our headline guest today?
I'll chuck in there. There's a couple of themes that I thought was really interesting from my perspective. David talking about trust.
Yeah.
Huge issue that we all need to embrace in the sector, and not only external trust, so trust from the operator, other companies to the supply chain, but also internal trust, because some of the conversations we've had, actually some of the internal dynamics are quite challenged, and trying to persuade one part of the business that this is great when the other side believes in it already. That's quite an interesting dynamic as well. So there's some interesting thoughts around that. And from my perspective, what digitizing reality does is creates digital models of assets, or it could be anything. We work in the civil space. We do bridges, we do churches, we do cathedrals. But if you're looking at assets and FPSOs and all that kind of thing, the key, and I would say this as an ex-newspaper man, is simplicity. So we're trying to make people's lives easier, simpler, and visual. And I think visual is the key. If you can make it something visual that everybody can embrace and understand very quickly without any jargon, acronyms, all that stuff that I hate, and that's got to be something that's as a value to people. A couple of thoughts from that.
Brilliant, thank you. Great summary of what we heard earlier from our headline guest. Thank you, Damien. We'll go to your normal name now, Andy, if that's okay. Andy, we'll flip to you, Managing Director at Prism Energy. Your article in this month's magazine is titled "Exploring the Digital Dilemma." You talk about threats and opportunities facing the energy sector. There are risks associated with making any type of change and all of that, but one of the biggest risks you're saying is being left behind. What were you trying to tell us in that?
Yeah, so when we started to think about the article, we were just starting to think about the way we wanted to get things across, which I think comes back to a lot of what the guys were talking about earlier, that change isn't easy. So change, digital transformation brings a lot of benefits if you get it right, but there's a lot of pitfalls there as well of picking the right things. Obviously, there's still a lot of people considerations within organisations, and you'll always get people that want to say, we've always done it this way, why should we change? And it's all about people need to make the step or they will get left behind. And when you think about companies like Repsol that are investing a lot of time and money in it, that if there's other operators that aren't, then who's the one that's going to stand out? Who's the one that people are going to want to work for? Who's the ones that are going to be more efficient, lower their expenses, make more profit, that kind of thing. So it was really just looking at the different factors of that.
Very good. And in your article, you give us 3 or 4 threats and opportunities on the digital side that you're dealing with your clients today and helping them through. What are the biggest threats and opportunities you're seeing in your client base?
So the big opportunities really are collaboration. So, and you saw with the guys earlier, there's companies like really joining together now, and we're seeing that a lot in the decommissioning space. There's companies thinking of different ways to do things. They're more open to talking to other businesses about joining up and trying different solutions. So we're finding that our platform is actually hosting a lot of that.
Right.
So companies are able to work in it just to track their actions and the risks and lessons learned and all that thing directly, while they explore ways that they can actually make benefits for everyone. In terms of the threat side, so the big trend that we've seen change is cybersecurity.
Right.
So that's really at the top of everyone's agenda now. Every company that we approach, the first thing we get asked about is cybersecurity. There's always sort of a process to go through there, and that's really because that change to bring in all these digital tools that people are developing and deploying is opening the door to cyber attacks that if you stayed in paper and pens just wouldn't be there. But we all know that's not a situation that can remain, so it's just being mindful and putting in the right protections around that.
When you started Prism, did you envisage that this would start to become an area of business for you, or has this just come in?
Yeah, so no, right from the start, we wanted to build software products.
Right.
So we wanted to have something that was there as a tangible, physical thing rather than just being a typical consultancy that sold man hours. So it was always a strategy. We wanted to build smart tools for project managers so that they could use them, they could get the benefits of them. And I think the kind of reflection is that it doesn't ever stop. So we're never going to be finished building it. There's always new features coming in because people want collaboration. We've brought that in. Cybersecurity evolves constantly, so we're constantly working and changing and adapting to the things that are going around at the moment. Visualization, Power BI, dashboards, people just can't get enough of it. So we're constantly building more and more into it.
My goodness me. And I guess as you grow and the subject grows and the topic matter and the activity and technology grows, you have to shore up and grow as an organization. We saw in the news about your news between Prism and Mandos. Could you explain a wee bit about what that's doing for you and what benefit that's bringing to your clients?
Yeah, so it's always been on our roadmap to move into doing quality products as well as the project products, just because they sit so well. But because we've been growing so quickly, our primary driver for it was we actually wanted to use the tool. So internally, we wanted to be able to build our own processes and systems and really visualize them. But we also knew it would work really well within the core set of modules that we've got. So when the opportunity came up to buy it, we thought this is great because we can take what is an older style program and then turn it into a cloud version using the development team that we've got, which is going on at the moment. And that means that we can take what is a very well-known and well-running tool and bring it into our cloud solution. And then it just means that companies will be able to now manage risks, actions, but they'll also be able to visualize all the procedures that the companies want them to adapt to.
My word, absolutely fantastic. We'll come back to you in just a moment, Andy, if that's okay. Keegan, let me just take you off mute there. Keegan.
Yes, how's it going?
It's the first time we've had you with us on the show. For those who don't know, could you give us a little bit of an overview on, I'm sure everyone's seen the logo. I'm sure everyone's got a slight understanding of what it is that you guys are all about. But for the novice, for the layman, who are and what does Seagull do?
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I mean, it's Seagull with a backwards G, which raises a lot of questions in most forums. But so Seagull, I guess, could be described as a sort of global energy technology partner. We have a fairly strong focus on delivering across 3 separate business units, industrial software being one of them, specifically geology and geophysics related software solutions. We provide a myriad of consulting offerings too, whether that's hands for hire or traditional IT operations or business improvement services. And then probably the one we best known for is the provision of mission critical cloud solutions. So either publicly or privately hosted cloud deployments. In terms of location, headquartered out of the Nordics, proud to be a Norwegian headquartered company.
Very good.
But growing fairly rapidly, I would say, now with global operations spanning 9 or 10 countries. And I think my most recent check was up to almost 1,000 people. So Yeah.
Well, there you go. You have it. And I guess as a proud South African, you're pretty worried about the group that you're in and potentially facing Scotland in the Rugby World Cup, right? That must be a worry for you. But let's move on to your first question.
I was about to say absolutely not. We demolished you in the last game, so we'll have to see how it goes.
He can't help it. Keegan, the headline we read about in the magazine, turning complex IT into digital success stories. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. It kind of goes back to the definition of digital success. To me, that's about decreasing the time to quality decisions, integrating people, process, and tech. So from that perspective, we're all chasing this kind of Shangri-La of looking at digital transformation, which is a disappearing horizon, which David touched on earlier. And in that journey, obviously, there's a lot of complexity in the deployment and management of the IT systems that come along with that, right? I was actually reading a survey yesterday, a Harvard Business Review survey, I think in which 80% of the correspondents confirmed, obviously, that IT complexity is an impediment to digital success. So, from that perspective, they identified sort of 4 root causes. The initial one was the evolving landscape of decision makers. It's no longer IT heads of business making decisions about what IT should be. It's business unit owners now trying to realize value out of that. But it obviously has the unintended consequence of creating complexity in that the IT organization has to operate across multiple business units, right? And that's a problem in and of itself. We're having to integrate incompatible systems and technologies. There's multiple products. We speak about ERP, CRMs, AIOps, DevOps, whatever buzzword, bingo word you can throw at it. So there's a lot of solutions out there, and there's a lot of companies trying to utilize these to realize business value. And then obvious things like regulatory compliance, operations in hybrid IT environments. We work in a multi-solution landscape these days. Some companies still have mainframe computers running, and others are using serverless computes.
Some companies still have mainframe computers running.
It's still a thing in the banking sector. It's still heavily reliant on some of these old systems. So it's a patchwork landscape, and insofar as Segal is concerned, it's not just about the focus on the technology, but rather the people in the process as well. And complexity management isn't going to be solved by a single piece of tech or sort of single digital transformation strategy that involves technology only, right?
Yeah.
And technology, sort of digital success comes through a combination of those 3 factors.
So there was a time, and I'm guessing what you're saying is what you just said about mainframes in the banking sector and all of that there are organizations or industries that feel very much or say, if we can't touch it and we don't have control of it, and if it's not down the hall, we don't trust it, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Moving
to something like Cetegra, one of your big lead product, right? Cetegra, your digital cloud platform. Is that are you seeing more comfort with that, more trust in sort of cloud-based approaches to?
We are, yeah. I think the adoption of serverless compute, public hyperscaler infrastructural models, certainly becoming more popular. I mean, I'm a geologist by background. I grew up in the game of having a massive workstation under your desk that I could switch on and off, right? And when things got tricky, if you couldn't switch it on and off, you pull the plug out. And a lot of technical-minded folk in the industry, particularly oil and gas. We serve the wider energy industry, but specifically in oil and gas, there is an over-reliance on old, consolidated, monolithic IT systems. But obviously, with this sort of drive towards digital adoption, cloud technologies are becoming more pervasive, and we're seeing, I think, a more solidified and uniform response to developing IT governance strategies that include cloud. So from the perspective of Cetegra, it's an integration and collaboration platform. David spoke earlier about the value of company assets, and one of the most valuable being data. And it focuses really on aggregating and integrating data and its associated applications. But it does it in a repeatable manner. And it tries to remove the focus on technology, because technology is an enabler, but it's not the reason we run our businesses, right? We're here to drill for oil and gas. We're here to leverage wind technologies to produce power. We're not here to stand up servers and build networks. It's the same adage of, you don't buy a drill for the sake of buying a drill. You're buying a hole in the wall. And so, we try to sort of follow that mantra and increase the focus on governance and quality and the access to proper data, as opposed to building and operating cloud-based environments in your own departments.
Good stuff. And we noticed some interesting news. Segal, Petronas, and Microsoft have entered into a collaboration to drive upstream energy innovation by leveraging high performance computing. What's this all about? Have you got a short answer to that? Because we're running short.
Very short. Yeah, we were just fortunate enough to collaborate with Microsoft for a delivery through a tender that was issued in 2022 by Petronas, looking to drive digital technology adoption in the upstream operations. Because we're a Microsoft Gold partner, we managed to put forward a good bid and ended up winning the tender, which in a nutshell focuses on deploying Sategra on Microsoft Azure infrastructure, with the aim of obviously managing and operating the high-performance compute systems and leveraging AI workflows. So, currently hosting over 50 petrotechnical apps, hundreds of users, and that's steadily growing. And it sets a precedent in the region in that Petronas is the NOC in Malaysia, and they are sort of waymakers in terms of the way digital technologies are adopted. So it's really exciting for us to go.
Very good. Thank you so much, Keegan. And good luck to you in the World Cup.
Thanks, Eric.
Moving on. Thank you, Keegan. Thank you, Keenan. Chris, let's jump to you if we can. No strangers to OGV Energy Live. We've had many of your colleagues from Cannes on the show before. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. It's good.
Now, when most people who have been in the industry for a wee while, if you've got a wee bit of salt and pepper in your beer at the side of the hair, you would be forgiven for thinking about Cannes and envisaging a bunch of highly skilled technicians hanging off ropes halfway down a derrick doing some inspection work, right? But the whole story is about digital, right? Your article in this month's magazine is all about digital transformation. We're hearing deep learning modules. We're hearing about AI corrosion detection. We're hearing about all this kind of stuff. So I guess what you're here to tell us is forget, or maybe not forget, but we need to adjust our opinion of what Cannes is today, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think the Cannes always been about innovation in some form or another. So back in the 80s, when you had that guy hanging off the rope, that was an innovation in its day. So that might be quite a normal thing nowadays to see, but back then that was something that was new that Cannes brought to the North Sea. So yeah, I mean, effectively innovation and sort of using the best piece of technology, whether that's a physical piece of technology or some digital software. And getting sort of the best for our customers and getting the sort of being able to do our job as well as we possibly can has always been that sort of intrinsic part of Cannes' sort of DNA and kind of culture, yeah.
Very good, very good. The article starts off with one of the most light-hearted and funny starts to an article I think I've seen in our magazine. The headline was "Digital Transformation: A Journey, Not a Destination," and it goes on. Just bear with me a second here. It seems this is a Cannes article. I mean, what a step change in thinking. It seems not a day goes by without receiving unsolicited emails offering either an agile digital transformation, offering an agile digital transformation nirvana. How they beat the spam filter is testament to the sender's digital ability. So maybe we should read their proposals. and then you go into, you're talking about, there was a few lines that caught my eye, but one that really stood out was AI corrosion detection. How on earth is AI helping you with that kind of thing?
So that's a piece of work that we're doing along with some of the with some of the universities. So effectively, what we're doing is we're using a neural network to analyse the corrosion data that's being gathered from our normal historic inspection processes. So you can imagine part of the reason for us getting into this sort of concept of actually wanting to do something with this data is that for the last 30 years we've been gathering all this data. And more often than not, almost doing sort of nothing with it beyond, here's a piece of paper, there's your report, right? This thing's okay or this thing's not okay. But sort of opening up the sort of digital reality of everything, and what we can do now is that we want to try and sort of gather that information, gather that data, and actually do something sort of intrinsic value for it. Yeah. So we've obviously got our business division, EngTech, that sort of specialise in sort of actually doing the sort of the corrosion management and sort of determining what we're actually gonna do with this data. So yeah, I mean the AI piece has been quite interesting for us.
And when you talk about deep learning modules, just tell us a wee bit about that.
So effectively,
Models. Yeah.
we've partnered up. So we've partnered up with an organisation who they've basically been training a sort of an AI model to effectively analyse, without getting too into the sort of detail of it. But pretty much what we're doing is we're taking our capture data and we're passing it into a neural network, and the neural network's then determining whether or not there's a risk there of some failure or some fault, essentially. So we're not trying to, and I think one of the sort of key takeaways is we're not trying to use the sort of AI as a replacement for the engineer sort of performing that task or that analysis, but we're trying to use the sort of the assistive AI as an assistive technology. So effectively what we want to do is we want to do things in a smarter, more efficient way. So we want to basically say, right, you identify all the risks that we might have, or potential risks that we might have. We're still going to need someone at a desk to analyse that. We're still going to need a person off the end of a rope going to gather that UT data on the pipe for the foreseeable as well. So that's the thing. What we want to do is we want to just make sure that we can use the technology to de-risk and use that sort of, do that sort of middle piece as efficiently and smartly as possible.
Very good. Thank you so much, Chris, for the update the update on what Can's doing in the digital space and all the interesting stuff you're doing there. Damien, you waited patiently. Right? Not to the end, but to be included, right? Absolutely, you're here. As you said before, newspaper background. Lots of people know you. Lots of people know you for certain things. But you've decided to.
What does that mean?
Good things. Presenting things, hosting things, being on panels, and all of that. But you've decided to really get into digital, right? So in the new role, managing partner at Digitizing Reality. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown on what exactly, you gave us a teaser earlier on what you're doing at Digitizing Reality, please?
Sure. I mean, digital has always been in my blood. We were looking at digital in newspapers a decade and more ago.
Right.
I don't think we quite understood what it would mean. And I do fear at times that the sector we're all sort of engaged in could lose its place a little bit if it's not careful in terms of how to embrace that technology and work at it for its own benefit. But in terms of digitizing reality, and again, very much placed in my sweet spot, is about visualization. So we create digital models, very, very accurate digital models of assets. And again, anything from, full-blown platforms, FPSOs, but we're also working in the civil space as well. So we like to have that cross-fertilization so that we're bringing learnings from both sides. And as a man who spent a career working in monosyllables, trying to break this down to a very simple process. And we're not out to sell a product to people. We want to work and build a relationship with clients so that we actually take this data, create the visualization, and then work with those clients to say, how do we utilize this to their benefit? And obviously we have conversations in advance of that to say, what do you need this for? What are the problems you have that we can make your life easier? And it absolutely boils down to that. We just want to make people's lives easier. If there's issues, and we're having some major conversations at the moment around methane emissions, or methane, as they say in the US, we have a US division. And how do we analyze that? How do we report on that? How do we visualize that? And how do we present that in a simple manner that people can make effective decisions as well? So it's communication, it's relationships, and it's simplicity. And I've always taken the view, without sounding too pompous, that we're not a B2B operation, we're a B2C operation. We need to provide convenience for clients. We need to make it simple, value, and quality. And if we can get those sort of elements across, and help them in a really simple way that they can see it in real terms, live, and can pull up elements of it so we can tag those models with videos, with work cards, whatever it might be, then that for me is a win-win. And we're quite early on, quite a new company to the marketplace, but we're having some great fun and great conversations already, and some really nice work to be done as well.
It sounds like it. What are some of the benefits if there are organizations sitting out there today that have assets, whatever it might be, whether it be on the civil side or in oil and gas or energy or whatever? What are the benefits to owning and being able to operate within the digital twin of your asset? What are some of the benefits?
Oh, they're absolutely huge, Eric, and I would say that, wouldn't I? But I think from everything from that sort of maintenance programming system to training at the very outset. People can see an asset before they even step foot on a helicopter. Reducing costs is another big one, in terms of stopping flights when they're not needed. So you can prepare and work with OIMs so that they know exactly what's coming, and that communication over a live model that they can both see and both see each other at the same time is truly valuable, I think. And we're seeing a lot of interest in that. Carbon footprint's a big one, of course. If you can reduce the amount of flights and bodies on board, then that too has an impact. I think critically it's about bringing teams together internally, so that if you're on operational side, you can talk to those who are perhaps on a decommissioning side. We've seen some elements of that, and actually some really nice benefits from those who started saying, we need this model for our decommissioning purposes. And they shared it with their colleagues in the day-to-day operations, and they said, wow, this is so good, we need to adopt this. Actually, if we had these conversations at the beginning that across the board, it would make life a lot easier. But I think this technology, some of the digital technology has been around for a little while. People are beginning to embrace it now and can really see the value of it. So that's great news for us.
And who would have thought 10, 15 years ago that we'd be sitting on a show talking about, you talk about your technology and your thinking and your processes being AI enabled, artificial intelligence just being in it right now. But you're talking about that today. You're doing this.
Yeah, we're doing this, and that's really exciting. And I think everybody's slightly nervous of the AI space, but it's not. And I think somebody said earlier, I can't remember if it was Steve or David said earlier, this is not about replacing people. It was David, was it? Sorry, it's not about replacing people. This is about taking out some of that grunt work, and you're going to need real people, engineers, eyeballs, stuff to see, to corroborate what's going on. But if you can eradicate some of the grunt work and also highlight issues that need reflecting upon, that's got to be a step forward for everybody, because you are focusing then on the quality issues that need real skill sets to analyze that issue and deal with it, rather than just getting reams and reams and reams of stuff that you may not have any focus on.
Steve Aitken's been listening in on this part of the show. Hey guys, great to see more interesting Aberdeen companies. My question, are you able to come to the Inform Prize next Wednesday? He never misses an opportunity. But that's an invite open to, of course, anybody in our that's watching the show or anybody that's on the show. That's great. And thank you, Steve. Gentlemen, it's been great to get an insight to what you're doing with digital. It's not just, tinkering about with it. These are companies that are neck deep in this and leading the way. Thank you so much for your time. Just a little short, a short sort of update on what you're doing, but we'd love to come back at some point. As I said before, we'll probably run this show, the Digital Embeddedness Show, next year. It'd be lovely to see what you're up to and how it's grown even more. Who knows what we'll be talking about. Thank you very much to Andy, Damien, Keegan, and Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks a lot. See you later.
Thanks, Ed.
We will just let those gentlemen go about in their day. Let me see where we're at. Thanks for all the questions and comments that are coming in. There have been some absolutely brilliant questions and comments, so much so we couldn't get to them all, but these are digitally imprinted. They're here. They're on the and what we ask is that some of our guests go back into the comments here and maybe answer those individually, which is great. So we've heard from our headlines. We've heard from our industry spotlight companies. We're now going to head into our Market Watch section of the show. I'd like to welcome back a friendly face to the show, Sharanya Kumaramurthy. How are you doing? From the EIC, how are you doing?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Oh, you're perfect.
Perfect. Okay, it's a big fear every time you sign on. But I'm good, thank you. How are you? It's been a great session so far.
It's been a great session with some really lovely people. Just getting to grips with this whole idea of digital in our energy sector. It's fantastic. I think the last time we had you on was the offshore wind show.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was, wasn't it? Absolutely. So it's nice to have you back. I guess taking a more, looking at maybe offshore wind, right? Based on the recent news that we've all seen, what's been happening in the UK offshore wind market? What have you got as a bit of an update for us?
Oh, yes. It's for offshore wind in the UK. I think I'm back. I'm back, yes.
Yeah, you're
Offshore
back.
wind in the UK has been quite topical, I think. So I think everyone has heard of the contract for difference auctions that happened a few weeks ago. And of course, offshore wind did not secure any bids. They didn't even put any bids in, to be frank, in both fixed and floating. And I think the strike prices were just too low this time. So the industry has been, for a few years now, piping on about how it needs to increase in cost for them to cope up with building all of these wind farms, with project costs raising up to 40%. Since inflation, and with strike prices for fixed bottom being £44 per megawatt hour, it was just a no-go for all of those 5 gigawatts of projects that were meant to take part. And even for floating as well, the strike price was £114 per megawatt hour, and both the Erebus and the Blythe wind farms that were meant to take part simply didn't bother putting a bid in, which I think is fair, because it's not feasible for demonstration projects at that size to be able to build it at such a small cost margin for them. But I think in terms of the EIC and where we stand, because of course we work with supply chain directly, it's been us realizing and hearing again and again that offshore wind still needs the support of the supply chain. And I think they need to realize that there are many other sectors involved, not just offshore wind, that these supply chain companies can go to. And with the lack of surety that the oil and gas companies in particular are feeling with offshore wind and the margins being not as favorable in comparison, there's no real incentive for that move to take place, because it's no easy thing to diversify.
Indeed.
So it's been a bit scary past few weeks.
It's been a bit scary, but is there anything to look forward to that's happened in the last few weeks? Anything? Can you give us a little glint of some golden diamonds, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, of course, inflation has taken the headlines for many regions, USA, Germany, Norway, but we're still seeing some positives. So if we look at the UK itself, they are looking at changing the auction this time round finally, so it will be more of a non-price criteria, which is what they're discussing, has not been confirmed, don't quote me. And they have in Norway added 3 new areas for them to auction in offshore wind now by 2025, which is exciting. And Spain as well, they've installed their first ever floating pilot project, the Demo South, which has just started producing power. And also in France as well, the Provence Grand Large wind farm, which I probably did not pronounce with the greatest French accent, has installed its first floating turbine there of 8 megawatts too. So there are some exciting times, but I think the next few years, I think everyone needs to remember to just pay attention to see what the market does, to see what the actual timelines of everything are.
And if they're unsure, they can contact people like you, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of that, what should we be looking forward to seeing from the EIC for the rest of the year? What's on the cards?
Well, we do have 2 more offshore wind events coming up. We don't rest until the end of the year. So next week itself, we have our Celtic Sea offshore wind event in Cardiff. So that's next Tuesday. Can still book on to see what's happening directly there. We've got all the main developers and tier 1 contractors exactly saying what the work opportunities are and what they're looking for, which will be good for supply chain companies. And also on the 30th of November in Edinburgh, we've got our offshore wind event as well. So again, for supply chain to come one-on-one with these developers and tier 1 contractors and see how they could cooperate with each other.
Fantastic. If you're going to any of those events, please, I guess you'll be there.
I'll be there, so please reach out.
Please reach out and make contact. If you're not going to be there, but you'd like to extend the conversation with Shiranya digitally, please connect with her on LinkedIn, and she will point you in the right direction. Shiranya, thanks for joining us again. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and we will see you later.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye. Well, we have reached the end of our little show. A big thanks to all of our guests today, and thank you to all of you for taking part. The show would be nothing without you. I think our winner, and there is no rhyme or reason to this. I've just starred a few questions, a few points that were put. I'm going to go with Darren Lindsay. Darren, you are our winner today. Thank you so much for your question. It really got the guests today talking. So we are going to put you in touch with Dan Hyland, who will sort you out. and your organisation with a half-page article or advert in a forthcoming edition of OGV Energy magazine. Congratulations for that, Darren. Our theme for next month is international growth. And if you think back to last year, that was a show that we devoted completely to Motive Offshore, who came on and told us all about everything they were doing internationally. We're going to try and do a similar type of show for the next one, and we've got an exciting show planned for that topic. Team OGV, OGV Energy, we're heading off to Adipec next week. If you're going, see you there. We might see you at our pavilion, at our golf day at Yas Island, at our business breakfast, or at our drinks reception. If you're not going, look out for all the great content that we're going to be posting while we're there, great interviews and all of that. We'll be back on this show on the 26th of October, where we're going to be covering that theme of international growth. Thanks for joining us again today. It is always an absolute pleasure to do this show. We are going to sign out today, if I can click the right button, with our little movie. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.